Hello everyone, glad to have you back. In my last video I talked about there being one more character that I didn't talk about yet, but to be completely honest, that isn't 100% true, depending on how you look at it. The character I want to focus on for the first part of this video is none other than Douglas Jay Falcon. I am sure that most of you have heard this name before, and the majority of the ones who know him also know the details, but maybe there are some among you who might not know the details, and that's what I want to focus on today. So, who is Douglas Jay Falcon? Well, it's this guy. Okay, not exactly, but we'll get to that. You see, just taking a look around the internet, you will find posts going back many years that mention this name in combination with Captain Falcon. But the problem with that name is that it simply isn't canon. It never was and never will be, but why is it that so many different people think it is his actual name? Why are there still websites that to this day claim it is his name? Where did it come from? A part of why many people think it is his name is due to a problem that I have also fallen victim to: misinformation. The internet is full of it, and some information just doesn't get around to everybody, and that is the case with the source of this name. The main issue is that the source isn't just some random person, game guide, magazine or whatever. The source is Nintendo of America. It is important to mention this detail because in 1998 Nintendo of America published this. Okay, this is where I was going to show you something, but the F0X website doesn't work and it hasn't been properly archived. Using the Wayback Machine we can go back to the earliest point, which is the 17th of January 1999, which only gives us this. And that's about it. Going through every single time the site has been archived yields the same result. But thankfully the pirate profiles have been archived on the F0 Facts wiki. At this point I'm also going to mention the term Snaky Lore for the first time. I'm sure a few of you have heard the term before. It's pretty much the name for all this content I'm going to talk about. Thanks to the investigation of these people, we are able to look through this lore today, so if any of you manages to find this, thank you for keeping it archived. We can now look through the profiles, and for now we will go down to number 7, and there it is, Douglas Jay Falcon. Now that we know that the source is actually Nintendo and not some third party, why isn't the name canon then? Wouldn't it make sense if it were that way? Now that I think about it, it would make sense. But there was so much content on here that just contradicts the official and already somewhat established lore. Also, nothing ever mentioned here made it out of this website, since GX and technically Maximum Velocity mention nothing about this. They instead just continue with what we now know as the true canon. Now that we have taken a look at the origin of Douglas Jay Falcon, let's look at some pirate profiles that were on this ancient website. Before we get into the profiles, what else is on this website? As far as we know, not much. The only other thing of interest would have been the F0X webcomic, which is still considered to be lost media. I've talked about it and other lost F0 media in this video, which by the way is not accurate anymore. I know about BSF0 Grand Prix 2, I'm fully aware of this. I just don't think I can make a proper video out of this, and by this point, most if not all of you already know about this anyway. Now back to the main topic. There's an entry for every single pilot, and if I went through every single one, we would be here forever, and I'm sure nobody wants that. What I instead want to focus on first is a well-known event mentioned in the profiles of the Skull and Super Arrow. One of the most well-known things is the grand finale crash described in the Skulls and Super Arrows profiles. There was an accident between F0 and F0X in official lore, but the accident described here played out very differently. Here, the accident resulted in 14 deaths, 13 unnamed and 1 being the Skull. This led to Super Arrow winning and him deciding that F0 racing needs to change. He held a speech which resulted in the creation of the F0X GP Academy. In canon, the accident did not result in any deaths thanks to the help of Dr. Stewart. Also, neither the Skull or Super Arrow were present. The Skull rose from the grave to join the F0X Grand Prix, and Super Arrow only signed up for an F0 license after he learned that Soda would join the F0X Grand Prix. That means that Super Arrow is actually quite a new racer, unlike on the website where he is described as the star of the old races. The F-Zero X GP Academy mentioned a few times is also completely made up. The Academy is run by Super and Mrs. Arrow and aims to train aspiring pilots to join the F-Zero X GP. Quite a few pilots have it mentioned in their bios, including Baba, Pico, Kate Allen, Leon, Roger Buster, and Drek. When we now take a look at the official canon again, there is nothing that comes even close. Especially when it comes to a collection of these racers specifically. It seems mostly random, with the exception of Roger and Drek, of course. The mention of Baba draws one tiny connection to official lore. There is the F-Zero Pilot Selection Committee, which is responsible for getting Baba into F-Zero, but the committee works so differently from the made-up academy, trying to compare these two would not make any sense. There are a few names mentioned, none of which are canon, of course. I already talked about Douglas Jay Falcon, but more pirates have been given a name here. Dr. Stewart has been renamed to Garen Andrew Stewart, although his real name of Robert Stewart has already been mentioned in the SNES manual. His father Kevin has also been renamed to Gilbert Arthur Stewart. Next up is Baba, who doesn't have a surname in official lore, but here he has been given one, that being Oninian. Octoman is described to have a different name that's difficult to pronounce since it is spoken in the Takoran's language. While this actually seems plausible, Octoman is considered to be his real name in the official canon. Billy is actually called this. I'm not even going to pretend to know how to pronounce this. You know I already struggled with some names in my last video. He's only known as Billy in official lore, no other name. The Skull was known as Sterling Lavaughn before he became the Skull. While he doesn't have a name in most games, in the Japanese version of F-Zero X he is actually known as Arvin Gordon, which is most likely his name, or at least was when he was alive. Christopher Annex is supposed to be Beastman's name, but like Captain Falcon, he is one of the few characters whose real name remains a mystery. The same thing also applies to Mrs. Arrow, who is known as... yeah, another name I won't be able to pronounce. Sorry about that. Doesn't matter anyway, since it's another non-canon name. Silver Nielsen is most likely his full name in canon, but here he is been given Mortimer as a first name. Drek is only known under that name since F-Zero X. Here, Drek is just a shortened version of this name, which I'm also not going to try to pronounce. Dr. Clash is another character who has never been given a first name in any official source, but here he is known as Dr. Theodore Clash. There are lots more names mentioned, but all of those are made up characters anyway, so they matter even less than the changed or extended or whatever made up names I just talked about. The names you see on screen now are some of the ones you will find across all the different bios. Some are more interesting than others, but like I said, non-canon, so who cares? There's one last thing I want to mention really quick, the planets. I won't go into any detail here, mainly because I've already talked about these non-canon planets in this video. But for those who don't remember, or if you haven't watched it, the following planets are all made up. High 4, Torrid 3, Odiapis, 41 Uma, Kericho, and Mandrill 4. And with that, I talked about all the things I wanted to talk about that existed on the F-Zero X website. There's still a lot more information about every single pilot, but I don't want this video to be too long, and I also don't want to just read all the information, so if there's any character you are really interested in, you can check them out on the F-Zero Facts wiki, where all the website bios have been archived. I've probably said it too many times, but once again, nothing on there should be considered canon. There is still an official F-Zero X website which provides us with official lore, and to add to that, the GX pilot profiles all continue with that lore and completely dismiss everything made up on the Nintendo of America website. To this day, some of these things slip through the cracks and manage to be mentioned as official lore. While sites like the F-Zero Wiki have cleaned up quite a bit, other sites continue to mention names, locations, or events that only existed on this website. Even this entire paragraph on F-Zero X, which is on the Wikipedia entry for F-Zero, consists of non-canon lore from the F-Zero X website. And those are only English sites. I can check German sites as well, but who knows how many different sites in whatever language also have misinformation on them. So it is pretty easy to make that mistake. I'm not blaming anyone for that. I myself have made many mistakes over the years, so I'm guilty of the same thing. Checking these things and getting this information out there is important. It's great that there are people who keep all the lore intact. Without them, this F-Zero world would all be very chaotic and things would contradict each other all the time. Well, that was something. Nintendo of America F-Zero X website was a topic that I've considered for a while now, but I always thought it wouldn't be interesting to talk about non-canon stuff. But here we are anyway. Even if you already knew most of this stuff, I at least hope you enjoyed it. As always, have a good one. Bye. For those of you who don't know, I plan my videos in advance. This video was already planned in December and I have hinted at it in my Happy 2024 community post. What is incredibly funny is this comment I got on my previous video, which suggests this exact thing. As far as I know, I haven't gotten a suggestion that managed to predict my next video before, so this is a nice coincidence. Just wanted to mention it here. I hope this person manages to watch this video, especially up to this point. But now for real, see ya next time.